The Wealth of Thomas Holdfast. Once upon a time, there lived a rich old man who was stingier than an ant in the dead of winter. This man, named Thomas Holdfast, clung to every penny and every strand of gold with his teeth. He never wanted a wife, fearing that a woman would find it proper to spend his money. And children? Heaven forbid. Thomas knew well that a child is like a sapling. It needs water and sunshine, bread and clothing, and leaves you penniless before you realize what happened. So he lived alone, with his fear of spending and his pockets heavy with gold. All his life, Thomas Holdfast loved watching his wealth grow, watching the gold pile up in boxes, and how each coin seemed to whisper to him, "Master, we're growing together." But lo and behold, the man had grown old, and his hair had turned white as snow on a mountaintop. And in his heart began to gnaw a strange and heavy thought, like a stone, that he would leave this world and couldn't take a single penny with him. And as this thought took root, another, even greater one arose in his soul. Woe is me, if only I could grow young again, or if at least I could stop aging, my wealth would remain with me. And as this idea stuck in his mind like glue on paper, he decided to do something extraordinary. He sent word throughout the entire village that he would reward with much gold anyone who could help him fulfill his wish. And the people, hearing his words, all gathered curious as flies to honey. But most came with fabrications and silly tales. For words about gold are like the sound of church bells on a feast day. They attract everyone, from gossips to the last man. And through Thomas Holdfast gate paraded all sorts of people. Some with clever words, others with nonsensical stories, even a few charlatans. All promised miracles, but none brought anything more than empty words. So the old man began to lose hope that he would ever fulfill his wish to be young again. But then one day, a young woman dressed all in black appeared at his gate. She walked with steps as light as a cat slipping through the grass. And with a gentle voice, yet full of mystery, she said, "Good day, Thomas. I heard in the village that you're looking for someone to help you become young again." The old man, full of doubt, asked, "And you are the one who could help me?" The girl laughed, and her laughter had something crystalline about it, like dewdrops. "No, but I know who can help you." Then Thomas, clutching his beard with his fingers, as if squeezing every coin from his fortune, asked, "And how much will it cost me? I'll have you know I don't throw away my hard-earned money." The girl laughed again, and her laughter seemed to slip into every corner of the yard. "Rest easy, it won't cost you anything. I like to help people out of the goodness of my heart." Thomas, hearing that the girl asked for no money for her help, felt his heart fill with joy and his whole face lit up with a smile. He asked, "Then speak, girl, don't delay. Tell me who can help me become young again." The girl, with a mysterious air, replied, "High up on a mountaintop, there is an ancient forest, and in that forest lives an old woman who knows everything there is on earth. If you go to her, she will surely help you." And as soon as she spoke these words, the girl vanished before Thomas could even thank her, leaving him a heart full of curiosity, his mind on her advice, and his determination not to waste a single moment. The next day, at the crack of dawn, Thomas Holdfast tied up 3 small pouches of gold to have them handy for whatever need, as he said, and set off on a long and difficult journey to find the mysterious old woman in the forest. He climbed and climbed the mountain slopes until his legs creaked like dry sticks and his beard filled with dust and sweat. Finally reaching the edge of the forest, he looked one way and the other, But the old woman's house was nowhere to be seen, as if hidden by the trees. He entered among the trees, walked and walked and walked again, like a leaf carried by the wind, until he no longer knew where he'd come from or where he was going. And so Thomas wandered for an entire day until the sun fell behind the hills, and it became pitch dark. So dark you could stick your fingers in your eyes and not see them. But just then, he spotted a light flickering through the trees, like a candle hidden in the depths of a cave. Overjoyed, Thomas followed it, panting and stumbling, and after passing through brambles and stumps, he came upon a tiny house, nestled like a nest in the middle of the forest. Thomas knocked on the door of the little house with both shyness and a bit of impatience, and suddenly the door creaked like an old tree bending in the wind, and from the threshold appeared a tiny old woman, so frail you'd think she was nothing but bones. She was dressed entirely in black. You could barely see her in the black night. She had hands as thin as dried roots in her eyes. Oh my, they sparkled in the darkness as if they were two embers. With a harsh voice, she said, "Well, who's knocking at my door in the middle of the night?" Thomas, clutching his pouches of gold to his chest, replied with a trembling and humble voice, "It is I, good mother, Thomas Holdfast, one who seeks help. I heard that here in this forest lives an old woman who knows all the secrets of the world." When she heard this, a sly smile appeared on the old woman's face, like a cat spotting a mouse. "Well, if you come all the way to me, I won't leave you standing outside like a drenched dog," said the old woman, and she invited him in. Thomas stepped timidly across the threshold, and what do you know? From the outside, the house seemed small, no bigger than a chicken coop, but inside it was as large as a lord's hall. The walls were adorned with dried herbs, jars of plants, and all sorts of little bottles. The old woman, with small, quick steps, as if she were a shadow, placed a rickety stool before him to sit on. "Well, Thomas Holdfast, what would you like from an old woman who knows all the secrets of the world?" Thomas, looking into her sparkling eyes, replied with trembling voice, "I would like to grow young again, or if that's not possible, at least to stop aging, so that death never catches me," said Thomas, rubbing his hands together as if counting money. "Now, if you have any power to help me, my gold is ready to sing for you," he continued. The old woman grinned, and her teeth, yellow as corn kernels, gleamed in the firelight. Then, with her thin and gnarled hand, like a hazel branch, she placed a small bottle on the table. "Look, see this little bottle?" she said, pushing it gently toward him. "This has the power to make you live 100 years, but it's not a toy, mind you, for you must use it according to rules and with great care." Thomas Holdfast took in his hands, his eyes gleaming with desire, and asked, "But mother, how much does this wonder cost me? How much must I give you to live 100 years? The old woman looked at him with a cunning smile, raising her eyebrows. "Rest easy, it won't cost you anything. I like to help people out of the goodness of my heart." These words left Thomas with his mouth hanging open, for he, who measured everything in gold coins, couldn't understand how someone, even a mysterious old woman, would give something away for free. And yet, those sparkling eyes and the old woman's voice had something that made him believe. The old woman smiled cunningly, as if she knew more than she was saying, and began to teach Thomas what to do. First and foremost, whatever wealth you want to still have in 100 years, put it in a chest and bury it in your garden. Then, when the moon rises, anoint yourself well with oil on your forehead and chest, and sleep right above the spot where you buried the treasure. The second evening, do the same. Anoint yourself with oil when the moon rises, and again sleep over the chest. And if you do the same the third evening, the deed is done. From that day forward, you'll live 100 years, perhaps even longer." Thomas remained wide-eyed. "That's all I have to do?" he marveled, unable to believe how easy it was. The old woman nodded, pursing her lips. The next day, at the crack of dawn, Thomas Holdfast woke up before daybreak, took the bottle with the enchanted oil, thanked the old woman with bows all the way to the ground, and set off cheerfully toward home, happy that he'd escaped with both his pouches of gold intact and the great treasure, the secret of a long life. Arriving home, he didn't even catch his breath before getting to work. He brought out from his room the largest chest he had and filled it to the brim with all the gold and silver accumulated over a lifetime. Then he went out to the garden, took the spade, and began to dig a hole big enough to fit the large chest. "The old woman told me it should be deep and well covered, so no one will find it," he told himself, panting and wiping the sweat with his sleeve. When the sun set behind the hills and the moon rose quietly over the village, Thomas placed the chest in a hole, covered it with earth, and tamped down the spot carefully. Then, as the old woman had taught him, he took out the bottle and anointed himself with the miracle oil on his forehead and chest with great care, so as not to spill a drop. He spread a blanket right over the spot where the wealth lay, and with a heart full of hope, he lay down flat on the ground, waiting for sleep to take him and the magic to begin. When Thomas woke the next day, he didn't see much changed. Only his skin seemed more stretched and smooth, as if someone had taken away his wrinkles with their hand. "Well, I think the oil is beginning to do its work," he rejoiced in his mind, shaking off the dust. The second evening, like a faithful worshiper at service, he did exactly as the old woman had taught him. He anointed himself again on his forehead and chest, laid down above the treasure, and fell asleep like a log. But in the morning, when he got up and ran his hand through his hair, he was left with a handful of leaves in his palm. He shook himself once, shook himself twice, but even more leaves fell from his head, as if he'd slept under an old oak tree. "Well, look at this strange thing. Where did these leaves come from?" he wondered, shaking his head. "Either the wind blew during the night and covered me with them, or it is a sign that the oil is beginning to work somehow according to its own way." When the third evening came, Thomas said to himself, "Well, this is it now. Let's see the miracle, for surely I haven't labored in vain." He anointed himself with the oil, spread the blanket again over the treasure, and lay down with the thought that morning would find him rejuvenated and ready for a life of enjoyment. But what do you know? When he awoke on the third day, he saw that he couldn't move a single finger. He tried to get up, but his arms were stiff, his legs bound to the earth, and from the crown of his head sprouted branches with green leaves. "Good heavens, what is this?" He would have wanted to shout, but his voice had disappeared. And what had happened? Thomas Holdfast had been transformed into a magnificent apple tree with a rich crown full of red apples. The old woman hadn't lied to him. Thomas lived long indeed, much more than 100 years, and the treasure remained his, buried beneath Thomas, who at his roots clutched his chest full of gold, holding the treasure tight so no one could take it from him. The end. And I've mounted the door and told you my tale. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this story all the way to the end. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of the stories to come.